Hey everybody, welcome back to another Judgment commentary of Owarimonogatari, but today we're going to be checking out episode 11. And last time, on episode 10, Araragi took down that weird amalgam thing that showed up at the end of episode 9. Turns out that thing was a big hodgepodge of a lot of the various apparitions that Araragi had faced back in Bake. Specifically, seemingly, the crab, the monkey, and the snake. At first they thought it was just the crab and the monkey, but then after he cut the thing down, the snake emerged out of it and attacked him. But Shinobu swooped in and saved them from that thing, so it's all good. What exactly the thing was is not certain as of yet. They didn't say much about it. They did say that it was a sort of half apparition, half not, so it's definitely weird. But it probably has something to do with the armor. After that was done, Araragi laid down under the swing, found a message from Gaien saying where to meet her, which happened to be at the shrine. Where else would they go? After arriving there, we got a whole bunch of exposition. Gaien just decided to lay down a lot of vague, cryptic talk about what's been going on. The most solid information we got was confirmation that the armor is in fact Shinobu's first minion. He did survive the sun burning him up, but not without some complications. Because the sun just burned him down to nothing but ash, and he was still technically alive as the ash and just had to slowly rebuild himself after 400 years, and even now, he doesn't have his corporeal form, he's still just the ash, but he's at least recovered enough to be able to think and act. And she did say some weird things, like how he returned to this town. And of course, using the word returned would imply that he's been to this town before, and that he's coming back. And there's also the fact that Shinobu was so sure that the guy was dead, she just called Gaien out on that, saying, "No, he died, I watched him die, there's no way it's him." She straight up didn't seem to know that he could have survived it, which is interesting, because she herself managed to survive the sunlight. I mean, she survived it even better than he did. But of course she's stronger than him. As we saw in the dark alternate timeline, she tried to commit suicide by going out into the sun just like him, but it didn't work on her. At all. All it did was wound her and cause her immense pain. She didn't turn to dust like he did. And as I recall, even with Araragi during Kizu, she said that if he had stayed out in the sun, he wouldn't have turned to dust or anything, he would have just burned forever. Which is odd that she would say that, because as far as she knew, going out in the sun meant you were toast. Or maybe I'm just misremembering, it's been a long time. But at its core, the episode was mostly just a lore dump from Gaien. There's not too much else worth, discussing here that I haven't already talked about at the end of the last video, so rather than waste your guys' precious time, let's just begin with episode 11. So yeah, what do I try to look at in what she was saying first? Well, for one thing, a lot of other stuff happened 15 years ago, and I was close to the mark when I thought of his sisters. Yeah, it was around 15 years ago that the Phoenix swooped in and replaced his actual sister. And it was also around 15 years ago that Ononoki came to be, that they decided to do the little corpse doll experiment. And at the same time, it's when the dude returned to his hometown, because that's what this is apparently. His hometown, he's from here. Popular place. And just by pure destiny, he happened to blow back into town. And then of course, there's the shrine, and the shrine has just tons of spiritual energy overflowing from it, and he was able to feed off of that for a little while to start to regain himself. But then of course, Oshino steps in, starts clearing the place up a bit, and he loses his source of food. And just when he was on the edge of losing himself entirely again, it just so happened to be the very same day that Shinobu went to the shrine for the first time. And just before he blipped out, he saw her, and I'm sure in that moment he would have gladly desired to return back to his full form. If at that point, I'm sure that was maybe if it was even on his mind at all. It was maybe in the back of it somewhere, but after seeing her, his drive for revenge would probably be insane. Although I wonder how he would recognize her. She doesn't necessarily look the same as she did when he last saw her. I mean, she essentially looks like her but younger, so maybe he wouldn't think much of that. But she did say what actually brought him back was the fact that having her so close in proximity to him just gave him a boost to his energy and allowed him to start to recover. Hence why he's just now come back. Here's one thing I wanted to mention during the video, but I wanted to pay attention, and I knew it would take too long to explain, so my thought is this. In the alternate timeline that they traveled to after Mayo was prevented from getting hit by the car, that guy, the first minion, he'd still be there, right? Like, is there something that would have, say, prevented him from resurfacing at some point? Because if not, then he would have shown up to an apocalyptic world where only Shinobu was left, basically. Although the shrine was drained of energy, there was nothing there, so maybe that's what would have kept him from coming back. Hell, wasn't it drained because Araragi got a charm that drained the place? So maybe Araragi just unintentionally killed the dude already in that timeline. At the very least, he would have drained any supernatural energy that was in the area, preventing him from coming back, and then he would have just blown away. That's an interesting side effect of him putting that charm on the shrine that drained it of energy, because it would have prevented him from showing up, yes? Imagine if he hadn't, though, and he had just re-emerged later in this destroyed world. Could have been interesting. On an unrelated note, I like that she said that Ononoki's mission was to just, clear the dust out of the shrine, which, again, would have stopped him from showing up because if his dust got scattered, then, well, he'd have to wait for it all to coalesce again. But somehow Araragi got in the way of that. Must have had something to do with one of the events that she was involved with. Not sure what else to talk about. We did have the more light-hearted affair of Araragi having to pick up some light novels from the bookstore, and then everybody laughing at him for trying to sandwich it between those two other things. And his reasoning for those two other things he picked were because of the suspicions that people have of him. Pretty meta. I mean, nobody in universe is probably suspicious of him. I mean, maybe a couple people. Buying a couple books just to try to dispel that narrative, man. Not gonna help. And the only other thing I could comment on is that he now has a physical form. Her first minion, he has taken a body very similar to Shinobu. I guess it makes sense that he would return in a younger state like Shinobu does, because she's only like that because she lost a good percentage of her power. And since he also doesn't have most of his power, he would have to return in a similar way. I would imagine he doesn't have to look like Shinobu, but maybe that's just to mock her. But anyway, I reckon that's all I gotta say for now, guys. But thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like and a comment if you enjoyed. Subscribe to stay updated on more. That would be great. Let me know what you thought of the episode as well. I'd appreciate that. There was quite a lot of interesting information that was told to us here. Some interesting mixed vibes. They don't usually, just do a total tone shift right in the middle that lasts till nearly the end of the episode like that. Quite interesting. But still, the next couple episodes are the last two of Owarimonogatari, before we go on to, I think that's Koyomi Monogatari, and then back to Owarimonogatari again. But we'll see, man. Things are getting pretty interesting. Him returning in this form specifically, as an edgelord Shinobu. We'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. We got 2 more episodes to see, so till we meet again, I will see you guys later.